This is episode 19 of Art, Why I Stuck with a Junkie Jazzman. In episode 18, Art returned to the recording studio. In episode 19, Art and I get married. But first, me and the music. Before I say anything more about Art's music, I want to emphasize what ought to be apparent. I'm no judge or critic. And though I learned a lot during my years with Art, I've kept plenty of biases based on my original tastes. But my tastes were formed by good people. The first time I can remember my mother talking about herself was in New York one Saturday morning ironing and listening to Bach. Usually placid, unemotional, she suddenly announced with emphatic emotion, "I don't know what I'd do without music." I was 7 then when I saw her for the first time. Here was my mother, another person, with feelings, with these feelings. I discovered jazz at around the same time. I had a wind-up Victrola, and thanks to my mother, a monthly subscription to the Young People's Record Club. One of the records they sent me told the story of the origin of jazz and blues. Jazz Band. Side 1 of the 78 record described Africa and slavery. Side 2 was about freedom and ended with Dixieland music, played, I know now, by Teddy Wilson, Buck Clayton, and others. And that was my first memorable delight, if you don't count gingerbread with lemon sauce. I wore that record out, repeatedly dropping the needle on the part where the music began. When we moved to Los Angeles, we got an upright piano, and my stepfather, Dick Fraser, a one-time serious violinist who'd given up his career to devote himself to demolishing capitalism, taught me to read music when I was 10. My mother taught me how to sight sing solfege, do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. When I look at letters and postcards I sent my mother from college and later from Europe and San Francisco, there are countless references to melodies and queries. I've been humming this, but I can't remember what it is. And then a staff of music, always put down in the easy-to-write key of C major, written using solfege, expressing time with musical notation. "Do you recognize it?" I'd ask her. She'd always have an answer for me. And using solfege now, I can still read those bits of tunes. A lucky child, you'll say, to have been raised by such a mother. Yes, yes. Pictured in the book on the next page is my mother during the period when she made the music comment, and a postcard I sent her when I was pregnant and sick in Paris in 1962. I was overjoyed I'd found an American doctor. So the music that I wrote out on the postcard is America the Beautiful. Back to the narrative. When I was in grade school, along with the 10 books of fiction the library permitted me to take home and read every few days, I got the Gilbert and Sullivan operettas, which I'd seen performed. And with one finger, I picked out the melodies from the Mikado and Pinafore on our old upright, learning all my favorites. I did the same with Gershwin musicals. At 12, I wrote a musical myself for the Socialist Workers' Party summer camp entertainment, The Fall of the House of Usher at 6%. The house was mortgaged. I wrote the story and the lyrics. I stole part of the plot from Edgar Allan Poe and the music from real songs by Gershwin and from silly and salacious Dwight Fisk. The show was never performed. My young cast was too distracted and fractious, and after a few chaotic rehearsals on the stage of the camp's auditorium, my best friend, my director, gave up on the whole thing. She was only 11. The Dwight Fisk raunch I'd picked up at my uncle's house. Saul had a magnificent collection of 78s, including truly oddball stuff, though he collected mainly very early jazz and blues. We girls were forbidden to handle his records, but my cousins and I listened to his Bessie Smith dirty records on the sly, trying to decode the double entendre. He cooked my cabbage and he made it awful hot, because when he put in the bacon, it overflowed the pot. At home, my mother's record collection included Bach, Vivaldi, and Mozart. We had Billie Holiday, Nadia Boulanger's arrangements of Monteverdi madrigals, my all-time favorite, and folkies, Susan Reed, Burl Ives, Jean Ritchie. At socialist workers' party functions, the grown-ups danced to soulful Louis Jordan, and we all sang stirring Union songs. When I was small, I sang myself to sleep with I Dreamed I Saw Joe Hill last night, alive as you or me. But Joe, I said, you're 10 years dead. I never died, said he. I never died, said he. Okay, never mind. We sang truly beautiful revolutionary songs in English, German, Spanish, and Italian. When I was about 14, my uncle introduced the family to the West Coast jazz of the Chico Hamilton Quintet. He knew Fred Katz, the cellist in the group. My mother bought the LP, and I listened to it so obsessively that one afternoon I had an auditory hallucination. Alone at home, I thought I heard the first track of the album, a song called A Nice Day. I clearly heard the lovely opening line of the cello, and then the rest as they joined in drums, guitar, clarinet, and bass. But when I walked into the living room to see who'd put the record on, there was no one there, no record, and the radio was cold. The tune continued, all 5 parts, getting neither louder nor softer as I walked outside and wandered up and down our silent, empty little residential LA street, frightened and amazed, and back into the house where the song continued to the end. By the time I got to high school, Sleepy Stein, our LA jazz DJ, had become my bedtime music, and I'd met Stan Getz at Sardi's and the Chico Hamilton Quintet at Jazz City. I'd studied voice at Westlake. Then, at 17, I married for the first time and left all of that behind. But in 1975, at 35, I felt my life with art in many ways fulfilled my youthful dreams. Art, sitting on the bed with sports or news shows hushed on our TV, tootling his clarinet, was comforting in a deep way for me. It mirrored how my Uncle Saul would wander through my aunt and uncle's house, my refuge as a child, playing little phrases on his violin. Art gave me a version of my child's ideal of home. We'd already gotten married in 1974. A wedding. Art had been nagging me to marry him. Our friend John White was a minister in the Universal Life Church. The following is, I swear, a true description of our nuptials. Picture a big off-white public building, not particularly pretty, LA County Courthouse. On a mild May morning, Art and I stand by a fountain. Art looks handsome in an inexpensive leather jacket. I wear a short, cheap, shedding rabbit fur. We're on the apron of one of many entrances atop one of many stairways on a little concrete landing, not particularly private, leading into the building. Anne, in a flowered shirt, holds a camera. John has swapped his usual dashiki for a shirt, and he's in charge. He says, "Okay, all you really have to do is sign this paper, but we ought to have a little ceremony here. Why don't you say something to each other? Make some promises." I ask Art, "What do you want me to promise you?" Art's very serious, self-conscious. "Will you promise to be sweet and loving and nice and not scream at me and call me names and hit me?" Anne, "Art!" John, "What kind of a question is that?" Art is serious. "Well, all my other wives did it. I can't take it anymore." Me, laughing. "Then I promise." Art, "Great." As far as Art's concerned, the ceremony's over. John says, "Wait a minute, Art. You've got to make some promises too." Art ponders, turns to me and says with great tenderness, "I promise to be faithful. I promise to take care of you and protect you and love you." I ask him, "And?" Art says, "What else?" I can't leave it alone. "What about drugs and drinking? Will you quit taking so many pills and drinking so much?" Art hesitates. "I'll try." John says, "Art, you're getting married. You have to promise." Art, possibly alone of all of us, feels the significance of what we're doing. He says, "I promise to try." We kiss. Anne snaps a picture. I take one of Anne and John. Together in the spring sunshine, each couple holding hands, we walk down to Union Station, cathedral-like, pretty much abandoned in those days. We stroll around admiring the painted, vaulted ceiling, the tiled floors, the tall windows with their leaded glass. Then we cross to Alvera Street and eat Mexican food. Art has had the ceremony he wanted, and I've made him promise to try.